What up, Gang Lang? Carolina Jackpot time coming at you. It is time for the week number 13 picks against the spread from Carolina Jackpot. All the rivalry games that will take place, or a fair amount of them, most of them, the important ones, I guess, for Thursday, Friday, and Saturday of this weekend. If you're not subscribed here to the channel, please make sure you subscribe. Hit the like button if you enjoy the content in this video, and come back for more. We do college football videos here all the time, live streams, and all that good stuff. And this is officially Hate Week. South Carolina versus Clemson. I will not do the pick against the spread on that particular game until the end of the video. So if you want to skip ahead and be a turd, you can go on ahead and skip ahead and be a turd. But if you want to get some good football insight from yours truly, you'll listen to all the Carolina Jackpot picks against the spread. Let's get into them, shall we? Thursday, one game on tap here. We got Ole Miss, ranked number 9 in the country, going on the road, taking on Mississippi State in the Egg Bowl. Mississippi State is laying 1.5 at home against the ranked Ole Miss Rebels. Thought that was kind of odd. I don't know if this is has something to do with Ole Miss. Could it be a letdown spot after a big win against Texas A&M, or could it be more likely than not a little bit of distraction with the possible rumors that the Lane train being tied to the Florida job, the Lane train being tied to the LSU job? I'm thinking that probably has something to do with it. Also, Mississippi State has a huge home field advantage. In this one on Thursday night, I like the home team. I'm going to go with Mississippi State here to cover that 1.5. I think they get the big win over Lane Kiffin's boys. I think they may be just a little bit distracted. Friday's game's got Iowa taking on Nebraska. Iowa ranked number 16 in the country, going to Nebraska. Nebraska catching 1.5 in Lincoln. Nebraska's played some close games this year against good competition. The most recent one, 7-point loss to Wisconsin last Saturday. Here on the short week, they face Iowa, who was a 10-point winner at home over Illinois the last time out. I think Nebraska finally gets one taken care of here. I think Nebraska covers this number, and I think they win this game outright in an upset over Iowa at home. This may be, I don't know, the Nebraska said they're solidly behind Scott Frost. He's not going anywhere. I don't know whether I believe that or not, but after this one, I'll be convinced of it. I think that he'll stick around for at least one more year, and I'm taking Nebraska here to cover against Iowa. Got Cincinnati, ranked number 4 in the country, playoff bound, I guess. They're in the college football playoff as of right now. If it were in effect today, they would be the number 4 seeded team. Cincinnati, whether they deserve to be ranked there or not is irrelevant. They are. They're going to East Carolina, and East Carolina is catching 14 at home. I think Cincinnati is getting a hold of East Carolina at the wrong time. East Carolina's been playing some good football. They've been covering numbers, and they've been winning games outright. They're 7-4 right now. The Purple Pirates are going bowling for the first time since 2014, and this is a huge spot for them. Wouldn't it be the biggest win probably in that program's history? And make no mistake about it, they've had some big wins in their history. East Carolina didn't just fall off the turnip truck. A lot of people like to show or throw shade at the Gamecocks for playing a close game against East Carolina early in the year, but this has been a pretty decent football program. Not really the Power 5 level, but over the past 20, 30 years, they've had some decent teams. I'm going to take East Carolina to cover this spread here. 14, I think, is just a little bit too much. I think Holton Ahlers and company will keep them in this game. I think they'll match Cincinnati blow for blow. In the end, I think that Cincinnati is just going to be too much for them. They've got too many athletes on both sides of the ball. But I do like East Carolina to match up with them for a while and keep this game closer than that 14-point margin. We got Mizzou going on the road to Arkansas. Arkansas is favored by 14.5. They snuck into the rankings this week at number 25. Solid performance last week on the road at Alabama. They ended up losing that game by a touchdown. Arkansas has been playing some good football this year. One of the more improved teams in the SEC record-wise. Last year, they improved on the field play-wise in their first year under Sam Pittman after he took over from Chad Morris. However, this year, it's actually shown up in the results column. Last year, they still didn't win but 3 games. This year, they've been able to win some of those games. And then they've taken on a Mizzou team, which has won 2 games in a row. They've covered the spread 3 games in a row. And is playing some decent football right now. They're playing with some confidence. A defense that was much maligned throughout the first 8 weeks or so of the season has really come to play the last 3 weeks. And I think they keep this game closer than that 14.5-point margin. I do think Arkansas probably wins this game by virtue of it being at home, or this game being played in Columbia, Missouri. I might have to go with the Yellow Tigers here, but as it stands, I will pick Arkansas to win it straight up. But I like Mizzou to cover this 14.5-point number. I think that's just too many points for a team that's playing pretty well right now. Colorado going on the road, taking on Utah. Utah's a 23.5-point favorite at home, and they're ranked number 19 right now after a dominating 38-7 performance over an Oregon team that was ranked in the top 4 of the college football playoff poll the previous week. Colorado is a team that's either they've been playing close games or they've been getting blown out. I think they've won maybe 3 games this year. Not a very good squad. However, I look at this one. It's on a Friday. This could be kind of a flat spot for Utah. They're going to be in the Pac-12 championship game as the representative from the South next weekend. This is a classic flat spot for any team like that. I don't think they'll go out there and put a whole heck of a lot of effort into this one. As honestly, I don't think it's going to take a whole heck of a lot of effort for them to win it. Colorado's just not a very good football team. And I'll look for them to cover that 23.5-point spread. Keep it a little closer than that. I can see Utah winning 17 to 21 points, however. Colorado's just not very good. UNC on the road at NC State. NC State laying the short number 6 at home. They're coming ranked number 20 in the country. Is there a more disappointing team in the country this year than Sam Howell and the UNC Tar Heels? My gosh, back in the summer we were talking about possible dark horse playoff contender. We were talking about the Heisman Trophy candidacy. Sam Howell for Heisman. None of that's come to fruit. Sam Howell's been banged up a little bit. He hasn't played as well as he's played the previous 2 seasons, and a lot of that has to do with the fact he just doesn't have the weapons around him. They do run the ball pretty well with Ty Chandler, the transfer from Tennessee. Turned out to be a nice addition to that roster and was able to fill a hole for them there. However, I like NC State in this spot to get this win by double digits. I think they're just starting to click on all cylinders. They dominated Syracuse last week, and we could be looking at NC State. Well, no, I don't know if they can win the ACC or not. I don't know if they can be in an ACC championship game or not. They'll need to win this game. That's what's going to need to happen. They'll need to win this game. They're going to need Wake Forest to lose to Boston College. I think NC State does their part. Go ahead and give me the Wolfpack to cover against UNC. Kansas State going on the road, taking on Texas. Texas is actually a 3-point home favorite. This is a case of... I think the wrong team's favored here. I really do. Kansas State, I think, is going to come out looking to make a little bit of a statement after last week's disappointing loss at home to Baylor, in which they were actually favored there. Texas has been just looking terrible. They've lost like 6 or 7 games in a row. I really don't know why they're favored here, any other than the fact that maybe Vegas just thinks that, hey, it's time that Texas is going to snap this losing streak. Not really sure. I'm not buying it, though. I'm taking Kansas State to cover here. Texas has been absolutely abysmal. Got South Florida going on the road to UCF. This is the I-4 rivalry or something they call it. UCF's laying 18.5 at home. I like South Florida to cover here. They've been playing a lot better football this year. They've won a couple of games. Players are starting to buy into Jeff Scott's system. I don't think they win this game. I'm not sure about their ability to win it. I think they could pull an upset and win it. I think it's more likely that they don't. But I like to keep it. That 18.5 number is just a little bit too large for me. They were able to cover a spread against Cincinnati a couple of weeks ago. So going ahead and give me USF to cover the 18.5 against UCF on the road. Got Coastal Carolina going on the road, taking on South Alabama. South Alabama catching 15 at home against Coastal. Coastal, Grayson McCall, guy's been banged up a little bit. They haven't had quite the shiny numbers they had last year. They have blown some teams out, but they've also gotten upset a couple of times, and they played a few games that were a little bit too close for comfort. South Alabama, I would pick them to keep this within the 15-point margin. They're playing a backup quarterback. Of course, Jake Bentley, the former Gamecock quarterback, got hurt, knee injury. He's out for the rest of the season. He won't play anymore. And our offense seemed to be hitting pretty good under Jake Bentley. So I'm going to take Coastal Carolina to go on ahead and cover that 15 points on the road. I think they will roll to a huge win over South Alabama. I got TCU going on the road, taking on Iowa State. Iowa State, 15-point home favorite against TCU. I guess they just hired a new head coach there, Sonny Dykes from SMU, going to take the place of Gary Patterson. 15 points is a bit much. Iowa State's starting to play a little bit better right now, and TCU been kind of stuck in wet fart mode for a little while. I think maybe the hiring of the new coach may rejuvenate it just a little bit. So I'm going to take TCU to go on ahead and cover that 15 on the road. I think they probably lose this game anywhere between 10 and 14 points. But Iowa State just hasn't proven enough to me this year that they can beat a team by margin. Washington State going on the road, taking on Washington in the Apple Cup. Washington is actually catching one at home. Normally the Huskies, it seems like, would be the superior team in this rivalry. However, this year Wazoo is favored by one single digit, and I think Wazoo goes on the road and gets this win. Neither one of these teams has a coach currently, which is kind of strange. I don't know if they've ever played an Apple Bowl where both the teams are coachless, head coachless that is. But so we got one in 2021. Of course, Nick Rolovich relieved to his kind of controversial fashion too. Rolovich relieved to his duties about the midway point of the season for refusing to take the COVID-19 vaccine. And Washington coach Jimmy Lake was relieved of his duties a couple of weeks ago because he yelled at one of his players and hit him on the back with shoulder pads or something. America's soft now. Let me go on ahead and take Washington State to cover here. I just think they have a better football team. Washington hasn't looked very good to me at all this year. Got Georgia going on the road to Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech is catching 35 at home against the Georgia Bulldogs. I don't know which way to go in this one. Georgia Tech had been playing a little bit better earlier in the season, and it looked like, maybe they're starting to turn the corner with Jeff Collins. They had a win at home against North Carolina. They went on the road, played Virginia. They were down like 2 scores late in the ball game. They fought their way back, damn near tied the thing up. Went on the road to Miami and lost a close game. But they've just been absolutely getting pummeled the last couple of times out. Last week, just an absolute embarrassing shellacking at Notre Dame, 55-0. When was the last time? I've never heard of Notre Dame beating anybody 55-0. That's just, Notre Dame's not one of those teams that normally punts those kind of points up on the scoreboard, but they did against Georgia Tech. My gosh, they obviously have no defense. Georgia, I don't really know how much they're going to put into this game. And just hearing the Georgia Bulldog fans talk and run their mouth all season long, it gets a little bit irritating, but they do deserve it. The team has been playing well. I expect them to play a lot of people in this game, but they have much bigger fish to fry than Jeff Collins and the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets this weekend. They have a date in the SEC Championship game coming up next weekend against Alabama. You got to think they're focusing a lot of resources and energy on that Alabama game. They want that one bad, and they don't want to just win it. They want to win it by margin, and I think they do. Therefore, I think this game at Georgia Tech, I think, is maybe just a little bit of a flat spot for the Georgia Bulldogs, and I'm going to go out on a limb here, and I'm going to mess around and take the Ramblin' Wreck to cover the spread. I think Georgia probably wins it by 31, 34 points, just inside the 35-point margin. Mark my words. Ohio State goes on the road at Michigan. Michigan is catching 8.5 at home against Ohio State. Many people are saying, hey, Ohio State's got the best offense in the country. Hard to argue with them at this point. Especially after the absolute destruction of Michigan State last week at home. That was just ugly. The 56-7 win over one loss Michigan State Spartans team. Michigan is also a team. Michigan was rolling over Michigan State at one point in that game. I mean, they had them down every time, and Michigan State came back and actually won that game. This is a huge spot here in this rivalry game. It's in Ann Arbor. Somebody told me, they didn't tell me, I heard it on the radio. It was one of these idiots from Clemson that, picks games and stuff. It's going to be cold in Ann Arbor. It's going to be like 30 degrees. Motherfucker, it gets cold in Columbus, Ohio, too. What do? You think they got a beach blanket laying out there in the middle of the field in Columbus, Ohio on their days off and they're sunbathing in November? What the fudge? It's a tough one, guys, but it's 8.5 it's just a weird spot. I'm going to go on ahead and mess around and take Ohio State to cover that. I think they'll probably win this game by 14, 17 points. Michigan they have a decent offense. It's better than what it has been, but I still think that Ohio State's going to find a way to score on them. They're not going to score as many points as they did on Michigan State, but they're not going to score as many points they have putting on some of these weaker Big Ten foes. But I think they'll score enough to cover the spread, and I think they will play well enough defensively to stop that Michigan attack and to keep this game. They'll cover this game. Got Texas Tech. Oh boy, lane split 17 miles ahead. Expect major delays. Ain't that lovely? Well, that gives us more time to finish the picks against the spread, don't it? Not really. We're going to turn it off and take a back road to get home. Texas Tech going on the road at Baylor. Baylor is laying 14 at home against Texas Tech. Texas Tech got shut out last week, actually, by Oklahoma State. They got a new coach coming their way as well, actually, from the Baylor staff, I do believe. Man, this is a tough one. Baylor, nice win last week, nice bounce back. Well, no, it wasn't a bounce back win. It was a nice win on the road at Kansas State. For some reason, I thought they lost the week before. They didn't. They beat Oklahoma. 14, not quite enough. I think Baylor covers the spread here. I think they win that game by more than 14 points. Texas Tech, not too good. Wake Forest on the road at Boston College. 4.5 point favorites at home. For some reason, this is just a weird one to me. Boston College dropped a narrow decision at home last week against Florida State. And I had thought they would win that game against Florida State, especially with the return of their quarterback, Phil Jurkovec. However, it was not to be. Boston College dropped that one. Florida State, that was a 26-23 victory there. Wake Forest, Wake Forest, not very impressive to me defensively at all last week against Clemson. I think that's an absolute understatement. They just looked absolutely horrible. If they don't get this win, it kind of throws it up, I believe, here for NC State to win and Clemson to for NC State to win. Are gonna. Let me get my words fixed here. Either NC State or Clemson will go to the ACC championship game. I'd like NC State to cover and beat North Carolina. However, I just don't have a lot of confidence in Wake Forest, though, to get this win. And, you know, if anything could possibly go wrong and get it to where Clemson could make their way, backdoor their way into that ACC championship game, I feel like it will. I feel like the weather, too, will become a factor in this game at Boston. I think it's going to be some nasty weather. It's damn sure going to be cold. And this is a bunch here that's not used to the cold weather. You know, the Michigan and Ohio State analogy was stupid. That comparison was stupid because Ohio State is used to cold weather. Wake Forest really not. Going to Boston, I don't think it's the best place in the world, the best spot in the world for them to play in. And I like Boston College to cover this 4.5 against Wake. Shit. All right, back gang. I had to pause that one for a minute so I could use the restroom facilities, and wasn't having a hard time. Was talking mushmouth, trying to find a place to park there amongst all them 18 wheelies. So let's get back into it. Can you believe between the North Carolina state line and where Carolina Jackpot lives, outside of Greenville, South Kakalaki, there are 5 wrecks. I counted them on the old iPhone here. 5 wrecks. Some people just act like straight clowns when they get behind the wheel of a car. I don't understand it. Florida State going on the road at Florida. Florida is laying 2.5 at home against Florida State. It's a crazy spot here. I mean, one of the more anticipated firings, I guess you would say, happened last week that has been talked about for much of the season. Dan Mullen, of course, let go at the University of Florida last week on Sunday, or earlier this week, I should say, on Sunday. Goes, and then is given an opportunity to coach out the last game of the season against Florida State, and declines. So, I mean, that should pretty much tell you that he basically gave the thumb and the middle finger to that university. Terrible. This guy didn't carry more about his players than that, but whatever, he's a jerk. They fired him, so I guess he doesn't feel obligated to the university or those kids anymore. So, how does Florida respond to that? They come out angry, they come out fired up. You know, they actually looked better against Missouri last week than they had the past 2 weeks at points and times in that game. I felt at no point during that game that they were going to win it. And, you know, I thought that them being like 8-point favorites was absolutely laughable. If they were able to stop Missouri at the end of that game, they would have won in overtime. Or they could have stopped a 2-point conversion from Mizzou, but they just couldn't do it. And who knows, Dan Mullen might still be there as coach right now. We might be looking at this one differently. They were a 10-point favorite, and then when they fired Dan Mullen, this game automatically dropped, and they were like a 2-point favorite. It's sitting at 2.5 right now. I can't believe they were ever favored by 10, and I think that the line swung the wrong way after the Dan Mullen firing. I think getting rid of that clown and that distraction is actually going to be a good thing for Florida. And I think that they'll come out and play with a little bit of piss and vinegar. At home here against Florida State, needing this game to gain bowl eligibility. I believe both these teams are 5 and 6, if I'm not mistaken. Whichever one wins will be bowl eligible. I actually like Florida in this situation here. I mean, I think that infinitely Florida's a better football program still right now than Florida State is. And, you know, whoever gets this job, it's going to be a good job. And whoever takes over, if they're serious about it, they're serious about recruiting. I don't know what the problem has been the last, like, 4 hires. They've just hired awful head coaches. You know, but of the past 4 that they had, I think Mullen probably had, you know, more knowledge as far as X's and O's. He just, you know, was bad at everything else. You know, was just a bad public relations guy, just a weird guy, just a quirky guy, and therefore not a good head coach, not a good CEO type, which you need to be. You need to have that kind of acumen to be a head coach now, and he just didn't have it. But I do like Florida in this spot. I think they cover against Florida State. I'm still not sold on Florida State. Don't think they're real good. They're getting better, but I think Florida will have just a little bit too much for them at home. If it's we're on the road, I might go the other way. Maryland on the road at Rutgers. Rutgers is catching actually 1.5 at home here against Maryland. Of course, Rutgers with a horrible offensive performance last week at Penn State. 28-0 loss, which I had actually picked them to cover that spread, which the week before they just absolutely blew out Indiana. They scored 35 points out of nowhere when they hadn't been scoring many all year long. In this situation, you know, I actually like Maryland going on the road to cover this number. They're just offensively much better than what Rutgers is. So going ahead and give me the Terps to cover here against the Scarlet Knights. On the road, I think they win that game straight up. Army on the road at Liberty. Liberty, 3.5-point home favorite against Army. I'm going to go on ahead and take Liberty here too. Didn't really like the way Army looked last week, taking on UMass. They're just really too one-dimensional, and I think if Liberty can slow that down at all and they can get that offense and Malik Willis can get it cranked up, I think that they can score some points on Army here, and I think they can get a nice win at home. Hugh Freeze, by the way, apparently signed a contract extension with Liberty to make upwards of over $4 million a year. So, I mean, I guess, is he going to stay around Liberty? I don't know. I mean, what the clause is in that contract. They're trying to sew him up. Really like what he's done up there. Can't argue with that. It's been a different team since old Hugh took over. Miami is on the road at Duke. Duke is catching 21.5 at home against Miami. You know, actually, Duke's coming off of a couple of extra days rest here. 21.5 for Miami, I think it's just a little bit. I would say it's a little bit too much. But man, Duke's just been atrocious this year. They have been absolutely atrocious. So, against my better judgment, I'm going to mess on around and take Miami to cover that spread there. I think they win this game 38-7, something in that neighborhood. Have they fired David Cutcliffe yet? Does anybody know? I'm not sure. I mean, he should be. I mean, my gosh. I mean, and nothing against David Cutcliffe, and, you know, and what he's done over the years, but I think his time is done as far as a college football coach. I mean, the game has just passed him by. Charlotte on the road at ODU, that being Old Dominion. ODU laying 9.5. Excuse me. Woo! At home. I think that's a little bit too much. ODU has been playing some good football lately. They're 5-6. Charlotte's 5-6. This is another game that somebody will be bowl eligible if they win it. I do like the Monarchs at home to cover, but I think Charlotte is going to fight in this one. I think they'd like to go to their second bowl in 3 years. And Will Healy, another good young coach who may not be around for much longer, the 49ers. They've had some losses by margin this year. Well, they didn't play particularly well. I think they play well in this spot here. Old Dominion is a team that can give up some points and has in the past. Let me go on ahead and take the Charlotte 49ers to cover on the road against the ODU Monarchs. Still might like the Monarchs to win it straight up, though. I got Alabama going on the road to Auburn. Auburn is catching 19.5 at home. Let me go on ahead and take Alabama in this one. I think Alabama rolls in this one. Yeah, I know they haven't won. Well, they haven't won in Auburn since 2015, but you know, this Auburn team, really not very good. There have also been rumors there about Brian Harsin perhaps leaving there to go take the head coaching job at Washington. Makes more sense, doesn't it? Makes more sense. I mean, when a coach spends a good while in a particular spot, you know, just geographically, sometimes some of these hires just don't make any sense. A guy who's spent that much time up in the Pacific Northwest kind of Pacific-y Northwest mountain, Rocky Mountain / area at Boise State. Not exactly what you call that, but anyway, coming down to the SEC is just a different brand of football, and not a huge surprise that he struggled. I'm not saying that Harsin's not a good coach, and not saying he can't be successful somewhere else, but he just really hasn't, with much the same roster this year, he just really hadn't done a whole lot of good things at Auburn this year. I mean, they've dropped some games that they shouldn't have. They've won a couple of games that you wouldn't have thought that they've won, but they've also crapped the bed. Last week's loss to the Gamecocks, a great win for my Gamecocks and Shane Beamer, but, a bad loss for Auburn if you're, just from the outside looking in at it. And it makes you kind of wonder how much longer he'll be around. I'm going to take Alabama here to cover this spread. I don't think they failed to cover the number 2 weeks in a row. Oregon State on the road at Oregon. Oregon is laying 7 at home against the Beeve. The Beeve knocked off Oregon last year in an upset. This year, would it be that much of an upset? I don't think so. Oregon State's played some pretty good football this year. This is a huge rivalry game. But, with the revenge factor from last year's loss to the Beeve, and the Beeve has dropped a couple of games this year that they probably shouldn't have. They're sitting at 7-4 right now, and probably a fringe top 25 team. But they've lost a game, like they lost to California that they lost. It was a game they shouldn't have lost there, for example. But they've gotten a few wins that you wouldn't have thought they've gotten either. Played good football there. Jonathan Smith's really getting this program turned around. Last week was just a huge beatdown by Utah, delivered to Oregon. I had taken Utah to cover and win that game. I thought their defense would be able to do some things to them, and they did, but my gosh, I didn't expect to see that kind of offensive outburst here. I think that Oregon will actually rebound here. I think they win this one by double digits, and I think that they play a lot better. They don't really have a playoff to play for right now. As it stands, they could still win the Pac-12, and I don't know if the dominoes fall the right way. Maybe they may be able to make it in by virtue of the fact they did beat Ohio State, but I would say it's a considerable long shot. But with that being said, though, I still think they win this game. I still think they're more talented than Oregon State, and I think they get the victory over the Beeve. Penn State going on the road to Michigan State. Michigan State is catching 1 at home against Penn State. Michigan State absolutely got thumped last week and exposed. Their pass defense really not very good. Penn State, I think, will come out and throw the ball around a little bit here, and I look for them to get this upset win here against Michigan State. I think Penn State is a really good football team. They just played some tough competition, just as all of them have. And I think this Penn State, Ohio State, Michigan State thing has now just about played itself out. And I think that Penn State actually in that pecking order is probably the third best team, with Michigan State probably being the fourth best team. So going ahead and give me the third place one, and that being Penn State, to get this win here against Michigan State. I just think they have better athletes on the offensive side of the football. Despite Kenneth Walker hasn't had an amazing season for Michigan State, take nothing away from him here. Just don't think it's quite enough to get the job done at home on Saturday. We have Western Kentucky going on the road, taking on Marshall. Marshall is laying 1 at home against the high-scoring and high-flying Western Kentucky Hilltoppers. Marshall, kind of high-scoring and then high-flying themselves. Marshall play a little bit more defense than what you'll see out of Western Kentucky. So therefore, I would take them to get this win in this spot at home. Going ahead and give me Marshall to cover that 1 against the Tops. Northwestern going on the road to Illinois. Illinois is laying 6.5 at home against Northwestern. A battle of two terrible teams. Northwestern's won 3 games this year. Illinois has won 4. I'll take Illinois. They have actually performed better in a lot of those losses than what Northwestern has. Northwestern's gotten blown out most of the times they've lost games this year, which is uncharacteristic of Pat Fitzgerald teams. Normally pretty well coached, normally pretty solid, and they'll play close games. When they lose, they kind of scrap, fight, and kind of hang into it till the end there. But this year's team kind of void of talent on both sides of the ball. Got some rebuilding to do there. Illinois, a scrappy team, I think will be on the map next year. And I think Brett Bielema is doing a pretty good job there. I think they get this win at home, and I think they cover that 6.5 point margin. We got Purdue, Indiana, going on the road to Purdue. Purdue laying 15 at home against Indy. Going ahead and give me Purdue to cover. Indiana is they're terrible on both sides of the ball. We talked about disappointments when we talked about UNC. Oh, it's a pit bull baby. It's a pretty baby. And have no collar on. It probably belongs to somebody, I guess. We're getting out of town. Vanderbilt going on the road to Tennessee. Tennessee is laying 31 at home against Vanderbilt. This is a rivalry game. It's a big one in the state of Tennessee. Vanderbilt's they actually won 3 straight against Tennessee in this series not that long ago. They're not doing it this year. Tennessee is just way too good offensively. However, last week we saw Vanderbilt when they were 30-something point underdogs on the road at Ole Miss, and they covered. They were able to kind of hold that high-powered Ole Miss offense in check for a while, and it ended up like a 31-17 ball game. And I could see like the same type result in this one. I don't think Vandy really stands a chance to win it, but I do think that they'll fight, claw, scratch, and keep themselves in it for a while. Give me Vandy to cover that 31 against the creamsicle wearers over in Knoxville, the mustard bottle throwers, the golf ball throwers, the ball tards. Virginia Tech, trying to think of all the nicknames I could there at one time. My head's kind of messed up. Something like that poor dog back there. Virginia Tech on the road at Virginia. He's okay. I'm sure he's got a home. Stop thinking about that, Carolina Jackpot. Virginia Tech going on the road to Virginia. Virginia is a 7-point favorite at home against Virginia Tech. This here is kind of a tough one. Virginia, I would have said hands down the better team a few weeks ago. Quarterback Armstrong's been a little bit banged up lately. They kind of got dominated by Notre Dame. And Virginia Tech, they fired Justin Fuente. I thought they would come out and cover the spread against Miami last week, and they kind of dropped that game by like 12, 14 points. It's going to be a tight one here, though. The Commonwealth Cup, Virginia Tech had won like 15 in a row in this series at one point until I think Virginia just won. I think it was just last year or maybe the year before that they finally snapped that string. I'm going to go on ahead and take Virginia Tech here on the road to cover against UVA. I think this is a really good ball game and maybe one of the more exciting ones to watch this weekend. I'm just kidding. It might not be one of the more exciting ones to watch, but I just think it'll be close. Go on ahead and give me Virginia Tech. Wisconsin on the road at Minnesota. Minnesota catching 7 at home against Wisconsin. Go on ahead and give me Wisconsin there. Wisconsin played a close game last week against Nebraska. I think Nebraska, despite their terrible record, is a much better team than what Minnesota is. Minnesota, lost their 2 best running backs earlier in the season. They're down like the 3rd or 4th string one now. I think it's starting to weigh on them just a little bit there. Going ahead and give me Wisconsin to cover there. They have been known to blow some teams out this year. Didn't do it last week against Nebraska. In this game, I think there's the possibility of that happening. Going ahead and give me the Badgers. Arizona on the road at Arizona State. Arizona State is laying 20.5 at home against Arizona. And I'm going to make this one my lock, stock, and 2 smoking barrels pick of the week. Go on ahead and take Arizona. They fought pretty valiantly this year in some games. So they've been overmatched, defensively. They've played pretty well at times. Only won one game so far this year. They knocked off Cal. When Cal, a week before, all of them had to go out because, a lot of the players had COVID, traced COVID or whatever. So we heard a lot of excuses. Well, Arizona, they only won that game because Cal, they all had the COVID. It's kind of like with Florida, all had the flu. But anyway, they wouldn't give credit for Arizona winning that game. But they've played some close games this year. They've actually covered spreads against Washington. They've covered the spread against USC and several other teams there too. Going ahead and take the Arizona Wildcats in this rivalry game to cover against old Herm Edwards' Sun Devils. Texas A&M goes on the road to LSU. LSU is catching 6.5 at home against A&M. This is Ed O's final regular season game. They would become bowl eligible if they win this one. Problem is, they ain't going to win it. I think Texas A&M is just the better team here, and I think they win this one by a margin on Saturday and send old Ed O off into the sunset. He'll pop back up somewhere else, I'm sure. Maybe not this coming year, but maybe down the road we'll see him again somewhere. Entertaining guy. Seemed to be probably a nice guy, probably a cool guy to be around. Just, I don't know, things just didn't work out for him there. Oklahoma going on the road to Oak State. Oak State is a 4-point home favorite in this game. Oak State is playing much better at this point in the season than what Oklahoma has. I'm just telling you, though, I'm going to take Oklahoma to cover here. I'm taking Oklahoma just on virtue of the way this Bedlam rivalry has played out over the years. Oklahoma, if you want to talk about these Clemson fans, they want to talk about the Gamecocks and Clemson, and they say, this is not a rivalry, it's a domination. Okay, well, whatever. This one right here, it really is a domination. If you want, they've played like 100 times, and Oklahoma's won it like 90. Pitt going on the road to Syracuse. Syracuse is catching 13 at home against Pitt. These two play every year. These are cross-division rivals in ACC play, and normally this game is pretty close, even when there's a difference in talent levels on these teams. However, this year, I really just think Pittsburgh's got the much better team than Syracuse does. Especially offensively. They've just been putting some monster numbers up there on the board. And Syracuse, whom I thought had possibly turned a corner a few weeks ago, has really struggled the past couple of times out against NC State and then Louisville the week before that. Really just not able to muster any kind of offense while giving up a ton of points. So I'm going to go ahead here and take Pitt to cover the spread at Syracuse. I think they probably win this by about 3 touchdowns. Unfortunately, I think the depth issues for Syracuse have just taken their toll towards the end here of the season. Probably a few injuries here, banged up somewhat, and they just haven't been able to sustain. And, hopefully Dino Babers doesn't run out of town after this game. I still think the guy's a good coach and probably deserves one more year to try to get it right. Kentucky going on the road to Louisville. Louisville is laying 3 at home against Kentucky. A lot of people kind of surprised by this line. Carolina Jackpot's not surprised by it. Louisville's been playing some pretty good football of late. They put a lot of points up on the board. However, that was against Duke. Not one of your better defenses in the country. Also against Syracuse, the aforementioned Syracuse. They just haven't been playing good football lately. I still think Chris Rodriguez is going to be able to run for some significant yardage here against the Cardinals. And that Cardinal pass defense has been kind of suspect this year. And Will Levis has yet to really, really have a solid breakout game against some good competition. And I think this may be it. I think this could be it in the rivalry game here. I think the wrong team's favored. Go on ahead and give me the Cats to cover that 3 on the road. I think they beat Louisville straight up in this rivalry game. We got Cal going on the road to UCLA. UCLA laying 6.5 at home against the Cal Golden Bears. Give me UCLA. Cal is not a very good football team. They did get an easy victory last week against Stanford, who's another one that we're going to talk about here in a second. It's really circling a drain. BYU going on the road to USC. USC is catching 7 at home against BYU. Take BYU in this one. The much better team. USC, I guess, people still just haven't bought into BYU for whatever reason. They've won like 5 games this year against Pac-12 South competition. In fact, I think they played just about everybody in the Pac-12 South, except for maybe like one of them, and beating them all. Going ahead and take BYU in that one. Notre Dame on the road at Stanford. Stanford is catching 19.5 at home against Notre Dame, and I'll take the Fighting Irish in those points here. That Stanford has looked really bad the last few times out, especially. They've gotten blown out some this year. I think they've lost like 6 or 7 games in a row after an upset win against Oregon earlier in the season. I mean, they just totally have fallen off the map. I haven't heard any rumblings about David Shaw possibly losing his job there. I'm not too sure why, but anyway, take Notre Dame in that one to cover that 19.5. They put a ton of points up on the board against Georgia Tech last week, and I think they'll very well do it again this weekend on the road. Last one, Clemson. Taters, ranked number 23 in the country, taking on the Gamecocks. We are catching 11.5 at home against the Taters. Las Vegas continues to disrespect the Gamecocks, and I can understand a little bit of that. Clemson defense has played well all year long. I mean, you really haven't seen anybody sustain drives against Clemson this year. But however, their offense has just been putrid. Yeah, I know the past couple of weeks they keep saying they're hitting their stride. They're hitting their stride. Well, you know what? They hit their stride against UConn and Wake Forest, 2 of the worst defenses in college football. And Wake Forest is a horrible defense. I mean, they give up about 460 yards a game. That ain't good, ladies and gentlemen. That ain't good. Gamecocks are giving up about 360 yards there. So that's an entire football field of difference. You think a damn entire football field doesn't make a damn difference? It absolutely makes a difference. Gamecocks offensive line, we're going to have the offensive line play that we saw against Auburn, the offensive line play that we saw against Florida, the offensive line play that we saw against Eastern Illinois. And I think the Gamecocks definitely have a chance in this game. I think they have a chance to keep this thing close. Moving the football, Jason Brown has got to get the ball out of his hands quickly to avoid that Tater pass rush. Got to hit some plays for yardage here. Got to hit some slants. Got to hit some. I don't think the Gamecocks are really going to be able to get the vertical passing game going against Clemson. Offensively, I mean, they have struggled. The ukulele has this has been one of the worst seasons for a Clemson quarterback that I have seen in recent memory, or perhaps ever. And this guy is probably the worst quarterback that's ever played at Clemson. He really has not a lot to choose from when he's throwing it. We know he's definitely going to target his tall receiver, the young kid from California, Bo Collins. Not Bo, B-O, like Bo Duke, in which I thought, that's the way you spell Bo. Well, then I found out you could spell it, when I was a kid, I found out you could spell it B-E-A-U. And I thought that was really douchey. Well, this kid spells his B-E-A-U-X. B-E-A-U-X. That's incredibly douchey. So if South Carolina can find a way to blanket the incredibly douchey receiver, he's not going to have a lot of options here. Got to make some plays in the backfield. Got to wrap up. Got to tackle better. They tackled a lot better against Auburn than they did the week before against Mizzou. We can't let this little shiflet, this little kid with the little freshman from Charlotte with a little porn mustache, get out into space. They got to, also stop the other running back, this Kobe Paxton, whatever his name is. I don't know. This other freshman that they said going to be the next Travis Etienne. I don't know. Anyway, it's hard for me to talk about them a lot without just really going into rabbit holes and about how much I hate them and can't stand them. Let me get cut to the chase. South Carolina covers at 11.5 point spread. If we lose, I think it's by 4 points. I think it's a really tight ball game. I think South Carolina's defense is really going to come to play in this one. I think they're going to give that horrible offense some problems. It's just a matter of, is South Carolina going to be, they're not going to be able to sustain many long drives against this bunch. They're just not. Are they going to be able to hit some short passes? Are they going to be able to get Nick Muse, the tight end, involved in this game? Is Zaquandre White going to come up and show that big dick effort that he's been showing the past few weeks and really take this team on his back and carry it across the finish line? If those things happen, South Carolina has a chance in this game. But regardless of it, I think they definitely covered the spread against the Taters. All right, that took a while, but it is our Week 13 picks against the spread, the last week of the regular season. Certainly hope you folks enjoyed that one as much as I enjoyed doing it for you. And I will see you all next time. It'll be a live show Friday night. The Rob and Kell show is live, and then I think we're going to have a show tonight too as well. So be there to call into that. I'll see you guys later. Appreciate you. Peace. And I'm out, baby. Go Cox. Spurs up to toes up.